Mackenzie here again. Sorry about the lighting, it's a bit harsh in the kitchen here. So another little sewing project. This is a bag that I got from a company in the US. I'll put a link to it, but yeah. So anyways, it's a simple little bag, 1000D Cordura. It's got Velcro inside, you can see that. And basically it contains a little fire kit that I've got here. I'll take this out. And you can see it's a Kendall mint cake tin. Keep these in solid fuel tabs. They're just in there as a sort of sure way to get a fire going, really. Bits of fat wood. And there's a whole bunch of other stuff inside the tin. I won't bother going into it. These are some of the wax cotton firelighters that I made. I've got a bunch of these. There's a couple more inside the tin, some other jute twine and stuff. Anyways, the purpose of this video is this bag, although it works, is a little bit too big. Oh, sorry, a little bit too small. And I find that when everything's inside, the corners being pointed like this are wasting a bit of space. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a new bag where it's basically got it's going to wind up having a flat bottom, squared off bottom, so it's going to be like a, like a paper bag, and that'll help it sit nicer when it's sitting down on a surface. And I'm also going to be making it touch taller and a bit wider, just so there's a bit more room in there that I can put more stuff in, or if I change the tins out, that kind of thing. So yeah, I'll reposition the camera. See me there? I'll reposition the camera and show you what I'm going to use, and then we'll get started on it. Okay, so what we're going to use, I've got some 1000D lined Cordura, so it should be fairly water resistant. Don't actually know how waterproof. I haven't tested this, but it should be pretty water resistant. It's not going to hold water, but it won't suck it up either. So what's inside should stay relatively dry. Bit of Velcro. I'm going to cut this Velcro in half this way so it's not so wide. We don't need it that wide. Got a cutter, other bits here. This was a paper mock-up to get the measurements and the sizes right. The only thing with this one is it needs to be a bit taller, but you can see, hopefully, you can see how the way that it's been folded, it forms a square or rectangular, but a flat bottom. So it'll, if it was taped down, but it'll basically sit up flat like a paper bag. Yeah, because it is paper. So yeah, this is just basically the mock-up. I made one error in this one, it should have been a little bit taller, but that's fine. I'll correct for that now. I've got the correct measurements. So I'm not going to show you how to cut material because it's pretty simple. You mark some lines and you give it some cuts. So I'll bring you back once I've got the material cut for this. Okay, so now I've got the material all cut. You can see here, adjust the camera. I'm actually going to make two of them. The amount of effort it takes to cut the material, I figured I might as well cut out two of them instead of just the one. So I'll do two. I'll complete one on camera. The other one I'll do offline because you don't need to see it twice. Right, so there's our material. That's the inside, or the wrong side, and that's the right side. So first thing we need to do is make sure everything lines up, everything's square. I've checked that. We're also going to want to do about, I think I allowed a 1.5 centimeter seam in here. So we're just going to fold it over and we're going to sew it 1.5 centimeters. And you want to sew into the bad side, the inside. Just going to measure this out. That's good there. Can't actually see what I'm doing, can you? There we go. So I'm just measuring out the 1.5 centimeter seam allowance. Looks good. I'm just going to crease this so it stays nice and flat. I'm going to sew this quite close to the edge because we're going to be putting another seam in with the Velcro that we need to add. Just set back there for you. So, same as before, a couple of stitches, back stitch to hold it all in place. So I don't know how you can see that, just a small stitch there. We're going to want to take the Velcro, which is going to go on the inside, and we're going to want to center that. You can see that. Sew all the way around it, and then I'm going to do a cross on it. Don't need to. This one is you know, fairly small, but a wise man once told me, wise man being Mac Tightwad, once told me that you're better to put more stitches in now, because once it's all together, you're done. You can't go back and fix it later. It's a real pain. And thread is cheap, so let's do it. Now we'll do the cross. So, back a little bit. So there's the Velcro sewn on. You can see the cross on there. On the outside of the bag, it looks like that, which really can't see. There you go. So you can see the box around the Velcro and then the cross. Now I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. I've got to do the half seam, the centimeter and a half, and then the Velcro. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause the video now. I'll get this done because you don't need to see it a second time. And then I'll bring it back as soon as I'm done. Okay, so there we go. We've got one side, that's the soft Velcro side of it. And we've got the other side, the hard Velcro. And it's the same thing. You can see the box around the Velcro and the X, and done the same on this side. Not the best sewing job. I can see that it's a bit wonky, but hey ho, what can you do? Right, now we need to turn it inside out. Now we're going to sew up the sides, and we need to sew both sides right up to the top here. When we get to this bit at the top, we're going to want to put a few stitches across here because this is where it's going to get pulled, and we're going to want to put a couple here. I might actually do a double line stitch, so do a double stitch going up there. It's probably the safest bet. So I'm going to start at the bottom. Start on this side. I'm going to start at the bottom and work my way up, and I'm going to do about a half a centimeter, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to stitch it again just for good measure. Backstitch this section and forward again, and backstitch it one more time and forward one more time, just to make sure that it's good and strong. We don't want this failing at that point, which is where it's going to fail. Trim that off. Trim off the cotton. Sorry, polyester this is, not cotton. So you can see the stitch that I've done along there now. I'm going to go and do one more stitch just to make sure that it's nice and secure, because we really don't want this coming apart, do we? There are some different ways that you could do this. You could fold it over. You could open this up if you had more allowance. Open it up, fold it over, and then stitch it, and that way it gives you sort of a cuff, or depending on what you're doing, if this was a bit thinner material, you could fold it over this way, stitch it again, and again that'll give you more of a cuff. It might actually make it more waterproof if it was double folded like that. Okay, I'm going to do the other side. I'll pause the video just because it's exactly the same thing. I'll show you what I've done here. So there's a double stitch all the way down. So I'll pause the video and I'll bring it back once I get the other side done, and we'll carry on to the next step. Okay, so now we're done. You can see there's another double row of stitching going down the side there. At this point, you could actually call the bag done. Simply take it, turn it inside out, You got your Velcro. It's done. It's a bag. That's exactly like the one that I bought from the chap in the US. What I want to do, however, is I want to turn this into a square bottom. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this, we're going to measure out to a point where it's going to be 3 centimeters. Sorry, what numbers did I have there actually? Let me check my measurements. Yes, at a 3 centimeter fold, which we're going to fold this up, this point up, well, sorry, we're going to measure in from the point 3 centimeters, which when we sew across here, so we're going to measure in, when we sew across here, it's going to give us a 6 centimeter box. So let me get the measurements, and then we'll get to the next step. Let's see what I'm doing here, maybe. Turn the camera around. Make a nice sharp crease in here so we know where it is. And you just want to make sure that the crease that we've got here lines up with this seam. That looks pretty good there. So now what we need to do is measure in 3 centimeters. Let's see if I can do this with so you can actually see what's going on here. So we've got the fold. My crease and my seam line up. And not from the very tip here, but from where the fabrics meet, so it's going to be there. And I draw a line there. And just make sure that this is all going to line up good. You only get one shot at this, so you want to make sure that everything is groovy. That looks good there. And I don't know if you'll be able to see this. Let's see. Sorry for the camera movements here. I don't know if you'll be able to see, but as I say, if we come in 3 centimeters, that's going to give us 6 centimeters across here, and it is in fact 6 centimeters. So let's sew this bit up here. Okay, so that now forms the corner. I'm going to do the other side. Before I process this, I'm going to do the other side here now. And then we can check it before we commit to this never changing again. So same thing, we want to make sure our seams and everything line up. Okay. measure in 3 centimeters. Make sure that everything is pulled properly and lining up. Now we're going to go across here, and we should have 6 centimeters across, which we do. So draw our line to sew on. Back to the machine. Trim off our threads. Okay, so now you'll be able to see this is now going to have a square bottom like that, you can see. So now what we want to do, I'm happy with that, everything looks good. Now we're going to trim off these corners about a ½ centimeter from where I've done the sewing. You don't want to trim it too tight, otherwise it could fray. And do the same thing on this side. Discard those. And that's pretty much it. Now, turn the bag inside out. Push out the edges, corners here. If you really wanted to keep the form, we could sew just along here to give it a bit of a seam. Okay, and that is basically the bag right there. So let me get my fire kit and we'll check it out. So at present, let's move you back a little bit. So at present, what's going to go in the bag is, as I said, my tinder tin, the hexi blocks, couple of bits of fat wood, let's go down in there, box of matches. Now that is a much nicer fit than the other one, and it stands up much nicer than the other bag did. Changes could I do to it? Nothing really. I think I'm actually quite happy with it. It's I maybe could have run the Velcro out a bit more here, but I don't think it really needs it. The only other thing would be, like I said, sew a stitch along the bottom here, just to help it, force it to keep the shape of it. And possibly do the same thing up the side here. Just makes it look real nice and tidy, but I don't think it needs it. This is now good to go into my kit. So, thanks for watching. I'm going to make up the other one, and I don't know what I'll do with the other one now, but I'll make it up because I've got it cut, and yeah, very handy. A couple of nice little pouches for whatever I need them for. Anyways, thanks for watching, guys, and we'll catch you another time in the next video.